Look, there's Kevin. You should be on the stream if everything is working. So we'll
Hello.
see. I'll be tiny in the corner, and you'll be the main event. So I'm joined here. Oh, our shirts are very similar. It's kind of funny. You can't see mine right now, but I have the same sort of
Uh,
sunbeam thing going on there. Cool. So today's dev stream where we're going to be working on some more content implementation and integration for Aeon's End with the Tier 2 Nemesis cards, bringing those into the demo. But first, we have designer Kevin Riley on for some Q&A. So, Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself if anyone in the chat doesn't really know you?
sure. So I'm the designer of Aeon's End. I've been working on it since the beginning, basically 2015. And in order to help with the digital Kickstarter and digital Aeon's End, I've been working on designing some brand new content. Before I designed Aeon's End, I was a professional StarCraft 2 player, and I played in tournaments and stuff. I did that for about 5 years, and I have a computer science degree from Harvey Mudd College in California, and I like rock climbing.
Harcourt Fenton Mud?
Yeah.
I'm just turning you up a little bit. There we go. We'll see. I'm sure that's a joke that happens a lot.
The other one is people from the East Coast think that it's Harvard Med.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which it's not. It's like a tech school in the West Coast.
Right.
So.
Cool. So you sort of come circled around back to video games now with us.
Somehow, some way.
Cool. I saw you. You were playing around with some Unity stuff. What were you working on there?
I can actually put a link. It's so in Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2, there were really good features for making your own custom maps. So, you're using their engine and their assets, and then you're able to put things together using their nice interface. And that was kind of the first place that I started game design. And oh wait, hold on. I'm gonna tweet this out because I forgot to do that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you got your.
Oh, I guess I'll just retweet you. That's fine.
Cool.
Yeah. So, so I made custom maps in Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 for fun, and basically I took one of those custom map ideas and riffed off it and made a simple prototype in Unity last year.
Okay. So you had that already, and you're just yeah.
Yeah, I this is a project I stopped working on like in March, so it was like last October to March or something. I was working on it, and I was inspired when I saw I didn't know it was so easy to put Unity projects on the internet, so I wanted to do that, even though it's like a terrible proof of concept demo. Like it's just shapes. There's no textures or assets or anything, but the basic idea of it is in the Blizzard games, when a projectile is coming at you and you teleport, the projectile hits where you were and doesn't keep tracking you and doesn't do damage. And so in Warcraft 3, I made a capture the flag game where everything was one-shot kills, and there were a bunch of custom heroes that all played off of this mechanic of like, some of them had teleports that were fast cooldown and they could use it a lot, and some people had to rely on other means to dodge these attacks. And so the project that I worked on in Unity was a single player version of this where enemies spawn around you and projectiles are coming in, and you have to teleport periodically to disengage the projectiles and then maneuver and kill the oncoming enemies.
Cool. Sort of a bit of bullet hell, but with teleporting and those kind of ideas. Cool.
Yeah. Similar to a bullet hell, the big difference was everything's on such a cooldown, so it was like a more deliberate decision-making process, right? Because in most bullet hells, you just hold down left click and you can always move and stuff. In this, your attack was on a low, like a 1 or 2 second cooldown, You had a melee attack that had a cooldown and left you vulnerable, and your teleport, which was the only way you could not get hit by stuff, also had a cooldown.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny like when you go back and play like original Asteroids or Robotron or whatever, like they have a cooldown because they could only draw like a certain number of things on the screen at once. So like you can only shoot if your bullet has gone off screen. So there's this sort of like
Right.
dynamic cooldown aspect that you don't really get in modern games like that anymore because there's no limitations. But it's sort of like an accidental part of the game design based on the restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of bringing that back is a cool idea. In a different way. So yeah. So anyways, let's talk more about Aeon's End. And anyone in the chat, if you have any questions about Aeon's End or any of the new content that Kevin's been working on, we talked a little bit about that previously, but I'm sure you might have some more details to share about that. I don't know if we've ever talked to you about like how did Aeon's End come to be for you?
Sure. So it actually started as basically a date night. It was something me and my girlfriend did. We took a copy of Dominion, and we had this idea of like, well, what's what are things we don't like about Dominion? Like, what do we want Dominion to be?
Mm.
And so we laid out the cards, and we had a discussion. We messed with it for a little bit, and we made some rules changes. It was a rapid fire iteration of like each game was 2 to 5 minutes, and then we'd have a 10-minute discussion in between, while we're trying to figure out like what's working, what isn't working, um, and it was really fun. It was one of the most fun things that I had done in a long time, and this was also when I was really struggling with StarCraft. So I was
Mm.
taking I think like 1 or 2 months off because I just had a really bad tournament and needed a break. And it was so much fun basically that we kept doing it, and eventually we got to a point where we're like, well, we can't use Dominion cards anymore because what we're working on is too different from that. So I bought like blank cards off the internet, and I just scribbled on those, and we were using that for a while, and then Jenny was like, no, we can't keep writing on cards, this is too stupid. So she put together a system to make the cards digitally. So we use LaTeX and
Okay, yeah.
Python. Yeah, so we use LaTeX. Jenny put together a system that makes cards via LaTeX, and we have a Python script that turns the CSV into LaTeX.
Oh,
And
that was why the markup in the spreadsheet was kind of familiar with the backslash codes and stuff.
yeah.
Because like I mean I was a grad student, so I used that for my thesis and all that and papers and stuff too. So
Yep.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a very convoluted, terrible way to
Sure.
do it. Like
Yeah.
someone asked me like, "How do you make cards? Can I make cards like that?" I'm like, "No, you really shouldn't. It's a very dumb way to do it." But that's our system, and now it's very efficient. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of how it all started, and we just went back and forth. I was inviting friends over, and playtesting. I had a binder that I kept all the cards that we were working on in, and just going back and forth. And then at Origins, I guess 3 or 4 years ago now, I pitched it to a bunch of companies and found Action Phase.
Cool.
And at that point, Aeon's End was actually a 1v1 game. It was the meanest deck builder you'll never play. And Action Phase was really intrigued by it, but eventually decided that that version of the game wasn't it wasn't in their line, and even if it was, they thought it was probably not really a good choice from a marketing perspective. It was a game that made you feel bad, and it was kind of intentionally designed to do
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's kind of
So
it's meant to be brutal and
yeah, because in the beginning, like I always kind of had the starry idea that like, yeah, we could publish this, but it wasn't like, let's make a game that will be successful. It was, let's make a game we enjoy and push the level of quality high enough that it could be published. Not that it like should be published. So in this deck builder, you could buy bad cards for your opponent, just out of the supply. So like 2 or 3 of the
Oh, okay.
supply piles each game would just be cards that did terrible things when you played them.
So it started out as a competitive game.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then after a few months of back and forth with Action Phase, they eventually had kind of the ultimatum of like, we like the core system, we think it's really interesting, we cannot publish it as a 1v1 game, make it a co-op, and then we'll talk.
Cool. That's
And
really
so
interesting.
there were a couple of months where as you might imagine, taking a game and making it co-op
Yeah.
all of a sudden was a big undertaking. So that was the only time over all of the Aeon's End development where I felt like I was obligated to apologize to people for helping me playtest, because the game didn't function right. We tried a lot of different approaches and different systems, and like it just didn't really work for a while, and then of course eventually it stabilized into what you now know.
Mm-hmm. At what point did the theme of Gravehold and the Nameless and all that come into it?
That was mostly after we had kind of established a relationship with Action Phase. I have a much greater appreciation for theme and aesthetics now, but at that time I was like, gameplay is the only thing that matters. It could literally be any theme and that would be fine, which I now disagree with quite a bit. But so Action Phase, Travis Chance in particular, put together most of the theme.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's something we've seen in the adaptations we do. The games we look for, you got to have both like strong mechanics and a really strong theme that engages you and wants you to learn more about the universe and everything. So to really have a hit. I mean, of course there are examples where there isn't, like chess, but like it's the combination is much stronger, than having one or the other. I got a question. Bishop
Yeah,
83. Yeah, you want to
Sure. Do you want me
that?
to read it and then answer it?
I can
Or
read
just...
it and then you can answer it. Or you can read it and
okay.
I can try to answer
Then it feels like a discussion. Go ahead, John.
All right. When did you hit on the idea of the deck not being shuffled when you run out of cards?
So, in playtesting the 1v1 version, there were a couple reasons. One of them was the convenience. I playtest on paper. I don't like sleeving stuff because of how rapidly we iterate. It feels like a waste of time when early in development, like literally one day to the next, we could reprint 50% or more cards.
Mm-hmm. And you
So
have
we're
to
always playing
re-sleeve
on
all
paper,
of them,
and yeah, and I never sleeve things, so shuffling paper is a pain. So that was one of the reasons that I was using in early playtesting. And then there were some gameplay ramifications. So basically, if you have a spell that's in the last hand of your deck, so you prep it on your last hand, and then you discard everything and you draw and you shuffle your deck, that spell won't be in your deck for that next cycle through. And I, in my head, the ideal is every card you buy, every card that's in your deck should be played once each time you go through your deck. But because of the way spells worked in this game, any spell that was prepped on the last hand would then miss a cycle through your deck.
right?
And in retrospect, it didn't matter. Like it was a problem that existed in my head that other people wouldn't care about.
Right. It's more of a purity of design thing, almost.
Right. Yeah, and it seemed important to me, and that's partly because I was designing the game for myself and my girlfriend. Basically, like we weren't designing it for other people at that point. So that was the gameplay reason that we changed it. And then there's the other thing of like, I like the increased strategic depth that it offers. I like that it makes the game play faster because you spend less time shuffling. But yeah, basically all of that.
Cool. Yeah, I think the only other deck builder I've played without shuffling is actually Galactic Strike Force from Greater Than Games, where you actually don't have a discard. You just have your deck is just a queue, where like whenever you
Oh, okay.
discard, you just put them onto the bottom, or when you buy stuff, it
Sure.
goes to the bottom.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but that has not had the success that Aeon's End has.
Yeah.
For other reasons than that, I think, for Galactic Strike Force.
Sure.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, guess we're it's the middle of the day, work day, so we might not have a lot of chatters. Did you want to talk a bit maybe about Aeon's End Legacy and maybe Aeon's End 4 stuff, potentially?
Yeah. Sure. So, Anzon Legacy is starting to be fulfilled to Kickstarter backers soon/now. I saw someone post in the Anzon Facebook group that they had received their copy,
Oh,
which
awesome.
was
That's great to hear.
surprising because I didn't think it was possible to receive your copy this early. So
Maybe they like work at FedEx or something, and they just grabbed it out of the stack.
the pallet showed up, and they're like, "Oh, nice! I'll just grab mine."
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but yeah. So that's starting to be fulfilled. Very excited about Anzon Legacy. I think it has the design to reach a much larger audience than we have in the past.
Okay.
Part of that is Anzon is a difficult game that is fairly complicated as far as board games go, and that makes it hard for there's a certain demographic that we're just missing with that game, and I think Legacy addresses a lot of that. Basically, I'll get to this question when I finish monologuing. Basically, with Legacy, we designed it. The first couple of games are pretty heavy on narrative and lighter on mechanics. So they ramp up the complexity and what's available to the players in a controlled way to make it a nice intro experience. At the same time, those games are shorter than normal games, and because they have so much narrative, we think that it will also engage experienced players.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very hopeful that Legacy will be the starting point for a lot of new fans to the franchise. So Evil Dice Monkey asks, why go with a theme where the humans/players can't win? No matter what they do, the world is already over and they're just delaying the inevitable. Don't get me wrong, it's a really interesting idea and I love it, but I am curious as to why such a bleak setting. So this largely goes back to decisions that Travis Chance made. He kind of came up with this world early on, and this was the world that he decided on. And again, at that time, I didn't care about theme at all, so we kind of just whatever he decided was fine. And I think if you play Legacy and AE4, which is the project that I'm working on right now, you'll see that this is not the world is changing, and it's not always going to be this place where the mages of Gravehold can never escape their refined dissolution.
There might be a spark of hope in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So it's just really dark for a while to start, for sure.
Yeah, and part of that is the only story that's being told is via the flavor text on the mats and the cards and the mage mats, the nemesis mats, and the player cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that the back of those
story.
mats have a lot of story on them.
Mm-hmm. And that's something we'll be continuing. Legacy has that as well, in addition to the Legacy has a whole written narrative as well that guides you through from battle to battle. But in addition, it also has that flavor text.
Oh, Evil Dice Monkey doesn't want sparks. He destroys them as soon as possible.
Well, maybe a flicker.
A flicker.
Flicker of hope.
Yeah. Does one thing I'm curious? I know like sparks and crystals have had different artwork in the different editions. Are they going to be different in Legacy and AE4 for variety, or are they going to be the same?
I think so.
I guess you don't really get too much into the artwork, but
I just don't remember.
Okay.
I think they're different, but I actually couldn't tell you. The last time I actually did anything for Legacy was in March.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I was wondering about the playtesting process for that for a legacy game as your
Hmm.
first one designing it. How did that go? And um, with that,
It was easier and harder than I expected. The hard part is when you create a system where everything is interconnected and future situations rely on past decisions. You can have ripple effects. You change something in the second game, and it could potentially affect all the rest of the games, creating a lot more playtesting.
hmm
And the part that was easier was, well, we can control every part of this experience. So we can, a lot of the times in the past where we'd say, well, we don't exactly know what they'll be playing with, or we don't know how this will fare with all these different situations. It's like, well, we basically know how they're going to end up, and so we can design around that.
okay, you got more of a you've got like a narrative structure that you can work within as opposed to just sort of random combinations.
Yeah, I mean, there's still random combinations because it's like after each game you get some amount of supply piles, and you don't get to keep all of them.
Okay.
And the supply piles that you swap out, you also get a choice on that. So everybody's going to go into each game with a slightly different setup of mages and starter cards and supply piles, but we have enough control over it to get a general idea of like we think this is about right.
Right.
um, One of the probably toughest design decisions or design challenges was basically if you give players a whole bunch of meaningful decisions one after another, and then at the very end you have the final exam and you say, this is the hardest boss you've ever fought. How well did you build your character? How well did you build your supply? How well do you understand it, and how well can you play it? um, we simultaneously had playtesters who said the final boss of Legacy was actually impossible, and others that thought it was too easy.
Right. Based
And
on
a
their
lot of
build, right? Yeah.
right, yeah, a lot of it just came down to like, were you optimizing correctly along the way? Like, did you make characters that synergize with each other and make sense? And in the end, we the Aeon's End is a game where we give you meaningful choices. And what that means is when you have meaningful choices, that means some of those choices are bad. And
Hmm.
so keeping with how the game has traditionally been designed, like Aeon's End Legacy allows you to fail. If you do not understand what you're doing or you make bad choices, you will have a hard time. And at the same time, if you make good decisions, you will have an easier time. Like you will feel gratified and you'll feel success and maybe even pride as you get further into the campaign. You're being clever and putting together combinations in powerful ways.
Right. And I guess
And
and
that
it's nice
that's
you've got like 2 to 4 people working together on this. It's not just on you personally necessarily, unless you're playing solo.
right. And this is the conundrum that we've faced basically all throughout Aeon's End is, if you really want to give people meaningful decisions, then that means some of the decisions that you're offering them or some of the things they can do have to be bad. Because if it wasn't possible to make bad decisions, then the decisions you're making aren't actually important or impactful.
hmm
Because you could kind of just do whatever you want and it would be fine. And that was the thing that we talked a lot about with Legacy.
Right. I guess you need to be able to have that feedback as well, like that, like you made a bad decision and you find out about it next game, hopefully,
Right.
and
Yeah.
can correct
And,
it
and
or
there's
something. Yeah.
yeah, there's mechanics in there to hedge that of like, well, maybe you didn't quite build the supply right and you've learned that, and here's some tools to help you change it.
Right.
And some of the bosses, it's as simple as just you need a different approach.
Right.
And yeah.
Cool.
So
Yeah. Another
I
question
see
from
another
yeah.
evil
Evil.
dice monkey. Yeah, I got it. How excited are you to be doing mages like Shay?
I say Shay if it's like a Chinese pronunciation. but I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if it is for sure.
All right, we'll go with Shay. With digital only effects, is it something you've always wanted to do with the game but couldn't do in the physical world? Yes, and yes. I am very excited. I was actually pretty bummed out when I saw the rate at which we were funding, because a lot of the cool stuff was designed to be um, stretch goals and stuff that we would unlock, or like the potential for a digital only DLC expansion was something we talked about. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
Yeah,
I
sure.
already did. So there
I
you
mean,
go.
yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I mean, to be honest, the Kickstarter funding rate is actually tracks fairly similarly to our other Kickstarters, so we probably shouldn't be surprised. But you always want like a big explosion, right? But I think
Yeah,
we're well on the way to funding, and I think we'll get into some stretch goals, and I think we want to make a good product that will sell, and will have opportunities for you to make cool stuff regardless of stretch
right.
goals.
Yeah,
That's the
and
plan.
in the last 2 months or so, I've put a fair amount of work into brainstorming digital ideas, asking the AE4 plus playtesters, like, what do you think of this? Do you like these ideas? Do you not like them? Going back and forth on mage designs. So yeah, I got really excited. Design, the thing that I like the most about game design is the design part. Development is fine, the tweaking and things, but at some point the development gets less exciting, and
Right.
it feels more almost tedious. Of like, all right, we've played with this card 8 times. I'm pretty sure it should cost 3 or 4. I'm not sure which, and at this point, I'm also not sure if it matters.
Yeah, well, that's why
Right?
you have
You,
Nick, and other people to do that for you.
well, that's yeah, that's not really. It's largely my job.
Oh, is it like
Um,
so? I guess there's like, oh, you need some
I
chopsticks.
missed. Yeah.
Like as I know, Nick is like a developer, right? So does he do more of that stuff, or is it a different kind of thing?
So it's not that he doesn't do that stuff. He does do a lot of it. But my role in Aeon's End is designer and then developer.
Okay,
So once the design is done, I am also doing tons of development.
and I guess the buck still ultimately stops with you, right? As like your name is on the box as the designer. So if there's a problem, people are going to look at you, not at anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, people have a tendency to blame, I think, companies first,
Mm,
and then probably after that they blame designers. And that kind of makes sense, because I think a lot of designer company relationships are like the designer passes off the game, and then largely doesn't doesn't impact the rest of it, and
oh, okay.
that's the total opposite of what we do. Like, of with each Aeon's End after the first one, I take like 1 or 2 months where I'm drafting up new content, new mages, new nemesis, new hook for the expansion, player cards, so forth. I iterate that a little bit internally, and then from there on out, we're working almost hand in hand the
Okay,
entire
cool.
way.
Cool. It's a good way to do it. And that's kind of how we've been working with the digital version. Like we've been working pretty closely with you on
Yep.
the UI and everything. So that's been going really good. Take Walker says it'd be more like shy with that pronunciation. We'll have to ask Chris and Alana how they pronounce it, because I don't think we've actually said it out loud with
Yeah,
them.
this would be the first time.
XAE, Extreme,
Yeah.
Aeon's End. Hey.
That's it. Her name is actually
XAEX. Oh yeah, like a gamer tag
yeah.
clan. Yeah, put her clan affiliation in there too. Awesome. All right, so I think we'll probably transition over into some of the development programming aspect of things. If you want to stay on, and I'll be like monologuing while I'm working if you want, or if you want to jump off, that's up to you.
I think we've had enough monologues. I'll give you a chance, so I'm gonna head off and take care of some other stuff.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll probably have you on potentially maybe on the campaign ending stream. That's going to be
Yeah,
on like the final Tuesday. So
sure, sounds good.
awesome. Thanks again,
Yep,
and we'll chat with you soon.
no problem. See you later.
All right. Back to and the chat is giant. Was the chat giant the whole time, or did that just happen? Let's fix that. All right. Let's get to what you've been also waiting for, besides chatting with Kevin, is some development. It was giant the whole time. No one ever told me that was giant the whole time. I can't know what's going on here. Chat might be giants. All right. Cool. So that was great to chat with Kevin. And let's have a look at some of these Nemesis cards that Kevin designed way back, and we'll get them into the game. So I have a list of the cards. Let's see how the Kickstarter is doing. Did we cross over 25,000? Still at 24,952. Let's have that bump up there, shall we? Cool. So in case you're not familiar, in Aeon's End, every Nemesis card has a little number on it in the corner. And when you build the Nemesis deck when you're creating the game, you take some of the basic Nemesis cards, like this one, and they go from number 1 up to number 3. You take some basic ones. You take the ones from the Nemesis, like Rageborn has its own, and so on. The different ones have their own, and you build a deck. So you put a bunch of number 1s, and then a bunch of number 2s, and a bunch of number 3s. You don't shuffle them all together. You have sort of 3 separate shuffled stacks, and then sort of the game sort of gets harder and harder and harder as you go along. The cards get more difficult. So if we look at like a number 1 card like Skewer, it's pretty, they tend to be simpler, have smaller numbers of damage and stuff like that. Whereas the tier 2s are more, and the tier 3s are really scary cards. So what I'm gonna do is set this up so we can look at the small card. Actually, I don't like that the small card is like way on the side. Let's move that over a little bit. So I'm gonna grab my list, and we're just gonna look at each card and see what it does. And then we'll bring them into the UI. And I already went through them just to make sure sort of what the scope of the work was going to be today. And we'll see what we got. So we got Awaken is one. This is the basic one. Unleash twice, Gravehold suffers 3 damage, or place the most recently discarded minion card in the Nemesis discard pile back into play. So we have this. We've already set up the small card icon, so you can see it's 2 unleashes, 3 damage to Gravehold, and this is a new icon to basically play a new Nemesis card, whether it's a new card or from the discard. And then Cauterizer is a minion, who was up on the screen briefly before. Cauterizer has a damage reduction effect. That's a new icon here with the minus. And then every turn it's going to deal X damage, where X is its health. And then we have Dispel. For Dispel, we unleash twice, and we have to discard a prepped spell. Fairly straightforward. Lay Waste. Unleashing twice, suffer 2 damage. So you see, these aren't like, they're not all terrible, but they are getting a little worse than the level 1. This one has 11 health, which is pretty rough, and every turn Gravehold's going to suffer 2 damage, so you don't want to keep that one around too long. Pulverizing Ray. This is a power with 1 token, and you can't get rid of it. So this is an interesting one because it says Gravehold suffers 3 damage, or any player discards gem in hand. And actually there should be a line break here because you repeat the entire card 5 additional times. So that's how that one works. So basically, either Gravehold's going to suffer like 3 to 15 damage, like Gravehold will suffer between 0 and 15 damage, and any player will discard, or like there'll be 6 discards. So it's a combination of however you want to do it. Okay, we have Venomite. And this is a minion that has a fairly longer effect, so it had to shrink the font size down a little bit. Either on every turn, the player with the lowest life suffers 2 damage, or discard a prep spell. Okay, looks like the flavor text on this needs to be adjusted. Maybe let the font shrink a little bit, but we'll deal with that later. We're more interested in getting the gameplay working today. Yeah, that's a nasty one. Scorn, this is a Rageborn card. And we have Gravehold suffering 3 damage or unleashing twice. Again, it's a pretty nasty card with 9 health that can come out in the second phase. We have Bloodcry. This is a power which can be discarded, so you can spend 4 charges. But it's a new icon there, an X on a pie. We've updated the power token icon to be at the pie like we're using instead of the other icon. And if it goes off, it unleashes 4 times, which is pretty rough. Evil Ice Monkey was hoping that the flavor text could be scaled up. Yeah, I mean, it's really tiny on the physical card, so we've matched that, but we can potentially add an option to make it bigger or to zoom it in. In Invoke Carnage, this is a complicated looking power. You can discard it by spending 7 ether, and what it does is unleashes, and then you suffer a damage, and then an additional damage for each Fury token. So that's at least going to be 1 additional damage because Rageborn gets a Fury token when he unleashes. So that is a rough one. Cool, so that's all the cards in the second tier. All right, so basically I've tried all these in the UI and most of them work, and the main thing that doesn't work is this select effect button thing. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. If we go to the game, I'm going to put Focusing Orb in my hand to give you an example, to show you what this this mechanism is. You've probably seen it in the demo if you played Focusing Orb. Though it'll only pop up if it's actually going to take effect. So Focusing Orb says, focus any player's breach or destroy this for Gravehold gaining 3 life. If Gravehold is at full life, you won't be able to do the second part. Evil Ice Monkey asks, are there any plans to update text on the cards in this version, specifically Pulverizing Ray? Potentially, there's always a chance to update text in the digital version. So I think we've already done adjusted a couple things like that. So if we play Focusing Orb, this is the select effect UI here, where on top of the card, it puts a couple buttons for the 2 options. And so you can see a bunch of those Nemesis cards had like do this or do that. And so we need to support that for those cards. That's the thing that doesn't work. So, here we can pick to destroy this. Gravehold heals, and the card is destroyed. So one thing you can see that's been added since the demo is that like dimming panel. I talked about that last week, and I put that in so that it focuses in on what's going on for the UI. But you can still click on whatever you want. It just sort of dims things out to draw your attention. All right, so let's get to it. And whoops, that's not the place I wanted to go. I wanted to go, yeah, so Awaken. Let's just have Awaken go and see what happens. So Awaken, was it a power or was it a, can't remember. Let's stack it on top of the deck and have it play it and see what, it might be a power. I think it's power. Or it's either power or attack, it's not a minion. Let's see. So we start with the Nemesis turn, the debug settings here, and it goes along. Yeah, so it is an attack. So, and it popped up, and here we get an error. The card view can't activate for select effects because it doesn't know how to do it, because previously we only had that select effect interface on mage cards. and so it's throwing an error there from the code. That's an error that I threw to make sure like we'll update this, and that's because it's throwing an error because that card view doesn't have these things set up. Like where do we put the buttons and where's the button that we should put? So let's go and put those onto the card view, and we can do that in the card tester. And we'll look at the player card to see how it's done there. So the small player card, it looks like this when it's not populated. And you can see it has a select effect parent object here. That's just sort of an empty thing, an empty space. And that's where the select effect buttons are going to go. And it also has a connection to the select effect button prefab, which is a Unity prefab here. And I think there's probably one in here, yeah. And it looks like that. And so whenever we need to create those buttons, we just add them in to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this select effect parent. It also has a layout group, so it's going to like make the buttons fill it up. So let's take that and let's put it on the Nemesis card. Okay. And I think it's basically got all the settings. We just want it to work pretty much the same. And so I think it's probably hidden by default. No, it's on by default. Okay. It doesn't have anything, doesn't show anything, so it's not a big deal. We will connect it up as the parent, and we'll also connect the prefab right here. We'll just use the same button. Maybe we might end up having a different looking button for this card. That'll be more up to Jennifer. Maybe the Nemesis ones will look a little different. We'll want to save the project after applying the prefab, and let's go. But that's the nice thing about using prefabs is that we can make a different prefab for that and just hook it up, and it will start using it. So let's go and see if it works now. In theory, it should just work. All right, we get the full card here again. Cool, and then we get a big pile of text on here, which is maybe a lot. So unleash twice and Gravehold suffers 3 damage, or place the most recently discarded minion card in the Nemesis discard pile back into play. So obviously that is not a really great label. It's a little much. And actually, this shouldn't be an option because there is no recently discarded minion card in the Nemesis discard pile. So that's a bug. That shouldn't be an option. Generally in Aeon's End, if you have an option between 2 things and you can't do one of the things, you don't get to choose it. So I bet if I click this, it'll warning. But it shouldn't be showing that option. So I'm going to make a quick note on the Trello board for that as a bug for the engine to fix. Oh, that's Sentinel's engine. Wrong engine. Let's go to Aeon's End engine. Oh, and I already reported that bug last week or earlier this week, so there you go. That hasn't been fixed yet. But so we can see that those options are maybe a bit long. We can probably make shorter text for those. So I'll look into doing that, or I can make the buttons bigger. I'd probably rather shorten the text. So that's going to be something to update in the engine. So I'm going to just make a note on my other Trello card here. So make effect options more concise. And this could even say whatever the minion is, right? Like it could be like put Haze Viewer into play or whatever it is. I think would be a good thing to do there. Cool. So we can also make sure that, if there is a minion in there, it will work. So let's do that. I think I don't really have a way to stack the villain discard. So let's go and add that in the debug settings. So you can see a bit of the debug setting work. That's right, the Aeon's engine is what we call it. So we want to, I think we'll make another list here of like trash Nemesis cards. These cards are trash. So we have debug settings, and we also have a thing called the debug helper. The debug settings is like a sort of a data structure that can be populated, and this is a helper that will use that to either return, like if you're using the debug settings, it will return the ones that we set, or if you're not in debug, it will just return empty, so nothing will happen. So let's just find where this is used, and we'll do the same thing. Yeah, so here, I can close this because that's taking up all my screen. Here in the developer setup, right, so that's, I don't actually want this part. Actually, I guess I can, this is here to make sure that if we're testing that the cards that we want to be in the game are in the game. So we'll put these in, make sure that these are in the game too. And we can, yeah, well, that should probably be distinct. Yeah. Okay, so let's find the next place where this is used, and we'll actually stack the trash here. So here we're checking to see if we have specified these things. We're going to put them in the deck, and we're just going to do the same thing here. We can probably make a helper method to do this, but and to specify the location, but for now, just to quickly do it, I'm going to copy and paste that. So for each one, we're going to find the card, and we're going to put it in the trash. Oh, discard is the, maybe I should call this by what we use in the, we don't use trash, we use discard in Aeon's N. And I'll do the same thing here. All right, that should do it, so that we can have a minion into the discard to begin with. That's building, 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 building. Come on, what's the holdup? Let's go to Unity. And Unity also compiles it. Chunky orange juice. Hand squeezed by me moments ago. I mean, not moments ago, an hour ago. Okay. Why is it compiling so slow? Now we have a spinny beach ball. And good, okay. Oh, and then I didn't put it in, so. This is all the stuff that you never see developers screwing up all the time. So let's make sure that Haze Spewer is in the discard. And actually, it's like, choose the top one, right? So we can put a couple in there. Let's see what it says again. Yeah, the most recently discarded mini card. So we can make sure it's doing the right thing here. So, oh, I thought, it must have, it says, set top card, called for location, but card was not found at location. Oh, I see. Okay, that's the wrong method. We need to like move the card. Game.nemesis.move card. Game.move card? No. There's another. Okay. Yeah, so we need to remove it from the deck and then put it in the. The other thing is just like setting the top card. So we'll remove the card from the deck and add it. Add card. That should do it. Evil Sex Monkey. Even the non-coding portion of the stream had bugs when he tried to squash the fly. Yes. Hashtag blame John. It was my fault, that fly. All right, I'm going to put another Nemesis card in. Oop, not 12. What's another one? We can use that cauterizer, sure. Let's try that, and then we'll should be, you know, the right one should be the one that comes back into play. The most recently discarded. So that should be the cauterizer? The bottom card at the bottom right. So yeah, I'm not sure how like things, the order of what add card does. So it's gonna put one of them back into play. So if I click on it, okay. So unhandled move card action. So here's something, we haven't had something come from the trash to in play before. So it's giving me a warning here that we need to handle. So yeah, so we haven't had this move card action is looking for different cases of like where cards are coming from and to. So maybe, yeah, just for now, well, yeah, I guess we can, I'm thinking if we want to fully do this, we can have it sort of like spawn from the trash and do that. So yeah, these are like moving a card. Yeah, so basically it's a card coming from the trash to in play. So we want to sort of instantiate it on the trash, the discard, and then put it, make it sort of zoom up as if it's being played from the deck. So the play card action is what actually does that animation. We have the Nemesis view being played from the deck. Oh, interesting. So, okay. Yeah. So we actually kind of want to use this logic here where it like brings it up full and everything. So I think we want to make use of this Nemesis view logic. So let's go to the move card action. So basically we check to see if it's the discard and the 2 is play area and the card is a Nemesis card. Then move it into play from the discard. And yeah, we're going to want basically to ask this Nemesis view to do it. So this is working with a play card action right now. But I'm not sure if that's really super needed. Yeah, the only thing it does is get the card being played. So maybe instead this can just animate, you know, animate play card, and it takes a card. And that will, then we can use it for other things. So let's do this, and yeah, this will just pass in the card instead of the action, which is fine. It doesn't use anything else from the action, so that's fine. And so this move card action can have a connection to the Nemesis view. and it can ask the Nemesis view to do that. So this is not going to work right away, because you can see all the logic in this Nemesis view is checking to see, like, it's trying to find the deck, and it's trying to find a card view. So I think what we need to do here is like create the card view instead of just like putting an error. But let's make sure we get into this logic properly before we change that, because that's being used both for playing regular cards and strike cards, and there's always like a flipped over card view there for it, and in this case there won't be one. So we need to hook up the Nemesis view to that game action also. That's the move card action. Okay, so let's run that. I guess I could probably set continue game, but I'll do that next time. To save the first few seconds here. All right, so let's do that. Yeah, so it just sort of, you can see it's skipped over everything, so actually not going to use continue game, because that other warning is not it's not using that break call. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of like checking for the view to be null, I'm going to say if it's null, create a view for it. And so it says deck view, but we're actually going to create it on the discard view. And so we're going to add the card view, or actually create card view for the card. And the view type, we're going to specifically say it's going to be the back. And that's it. And we'll say that. And then we know that the view is never going to be null, so we can remove this condition here, because we're always going to create one. And if we can't find where the view should come from, that's a bigger problem. So we're going to keep this thing here. So here, in theory, it should like pop into existence and then animate up. So we'll probably adjust the animation, but let's see if this works. One thing we'll want to check and make sure is that the discard area supports adding a card. Yeah, it does have a card parent, because it uses that to, like, whenever you discard a card, it like moves it to that spot before making it disappear. So let's check this out. In theory, it should work, but we'll want to adjust the animation. Yeah, and one thing we could potentially, in these buttons, actually use the icons instead of the full text here as well. But let's see. Let's click this, and yep, so there it comes. The haste viewer popped into play with an animation. So that's pretty cool, but we wanted to start off like teeny. So let's do that. So if the view is null, we'll create a view for it. Small. We'll make the local scale. I don't know if we have a... Yeah, so here we're not actually doing a scale on these, so we're going to want to do that. So vector 3.1 times, like tiny. We'll make it tiny, and we'll also scale it up as part of the animation duration. So we're going to, if it's normal size, normally we don't need to worry about scaling it, but for this one we will. So we'll do a transform, do scale to the regular scale, and over the half duration. So it's going to scale up and flip over at the same time. That's kind of the idea. Because what it does is it flips over. I'll make this duration like long so we can see the animation. what it's going to do is like it flips it over and then switches it with the full size card view at the right time. So let's try this animation, and we'll put it real slow, and we'll see what happens. So the first card play animation here is also going to take 10 times longer, so you can see what happens when he plays a card normally. So it's going to come, flip over, magically turn into a full-size card view, and then magically turn into a small view as it shrinks down. And so let's do this again and see what, yeah, so we get a tiny card view coming from there, and it flips over and switches. So and it doesn't look 100% right when it goes really slow, but at a normal animation speed, it should look okay. Cool, and then, yeah, then the other one pops away, and we carry on. Cool, so let's put the animation speed back to normal, and we still have lots of tweaks to do to animations to make them just right, but going for a sort of initial cut here. Yeah, so here comes our regular card draw, and then we have the new one, and there you go. So it is actually adding another card view on there that was, oh, because it's not like, oh, it's not getting rid of it? Why is it adding an extra card view on there? We're creating the card view on the trash, and then it like, oh, I see. So normally when we are creating a card view, when we move a card view off the deck, we like show the next one, but we don't actually want to do that. So here, I mean, basically, we only don't have a view because it's the trash, and we only want to create the next card view if the deck view is set to do that. So we'll check here if deck view is supposed to show the top card, or yeah, if it's just supposed to show the top card, we'll do that. But if it's not supposed to show cards, we're not going to do that. So let's do that. And I think, is next card used for anything? No, I don't think so. Yeah. So, and yeah, we adjust the card count. That's what we want. So, and okay. I think this should do it right. Yeah, that's a little glitch based on how the deck works that we didn't have to worry about the trash before, but now we do. So we didn't have to copy all of that code to do basically the same thing, but from the trash. So let's try this now. This is a lot of what software development is. It's making a change and trying it and iterating over and over again until you get it right. So let's click this. We get that, goes down to 1. Haste Pure pops. Then the other card goes away, and it has 2 in the trash now. So that looks like what we want. And then the Haste Viewer gets to act, which is annoying, but it is how it is. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if that's right or not, but we're going to look into that. Cool. So now that is working. So I'm going to say that card is looking pretty good. I'm going to commit our changes here. Make sure to save the project. And here we're support select effect on Nemesis Cards. And we're also added support for playing a Nemesis card from the discard for Awaken. yeah, so you can see even though a lot of the programming for the effects is implemented in the engine, there's still lots to do with integration of cards in the UI to make them work. And that's just one example of one card, and there's a lot of content in the game to work with. So we've gotten comments on the Kickstarter like, oh, the demo looks like it's done. You should ship the game, and it's like, nope, there's a ton of work still to do, both with game view content as well as think about all the other screens that need to be programmed and implemented in the UI, and more artwork and graphics and audio, and there's lots and lots that goes into a game that you might not expect. All right, so I don't know if I want to, let's get back to my list here. So this effect option thing, let me look at that again, because ship it now. We are going to ship an update to the demo hopefully this week with the tier 2 demo. So the PowerPi double click bug will be gone, Richard. You can't do that anymore. That's fixed in the development version already. So this text is like way too long. Like the first button text is like okay, like it's long, but it's not the end of the world. This one is just outrageous. So what I want this to say is place haze spewer back into play. So let's go check that out in the engine. It's not my wheelhouse, but I'm going to have a look. Because I've done this sort of thing for One Deck Dungeon a lot before too. So let's close all of these. Let's go to the Awaken card controller. Yeah, so here this shouldn't be doing a select effect if it can't do it. So so here we're going to actually use we're going to have this be dynamic text. It's going to say we're going to place blah blah blah. Like this entire sentence is just going to be the name of the thing. So we can use a $sign here and use interpolated strings. So we need to find the most recently. We're just going to grab this. Yeah, actually, I can probably. Yeah, there needs to be some checks here to see like if the minion is null, then just go ahead and do the other thing. So I can probably do that, and then it can be fixed up a bit later. So check to see there is such a minion. Look at me doing engine programming. Don't tell Jean-Marc. So here we're finding the minion. We're looking for card in the discard where it's a Nemesis card, and it's a minion, and yeah, and find the last one. Okay, so basically, if there is a minion, we're going to do this thing that was here before. But if there isn't, no minion, whoop, just do the first part. And so we're just going to do that, and we're going to put this little boilerplate. And yeah, so here we're going to get the minion dot title. And so this is going to work great. I'm sure there's a unit test, but I'm going to try it in the UI first. Because I'm dangerous like that. Takewalker wants to know, did I do the thing? What is the thing? I would like some fresh, warm, homemade wheat bread, so send that through the internets. Bring me a bread. All right, build successful. Let's go back to Unity. It's a little too bit for the big bit or too many bits. I mean, bread definitely has a lot of data involved. John's being bad. It's live. You never know what's going to happen when it's live. Hig, big, sig. All right, so the full text of the card should be the same. This is just the text of the button that I'm adjusting. So awaken happens. Yeah, so look at that. Place Hay Spewer back into play. That seems like a much more reasonable button. Still a lot of text, but I'm not mad about it. And it should still work the same way. But now, if I go and I say we don't have anything in the discard, it should just go ahead and unleash and damage Gravehold, which would be great. And potentially this could, pop up a message or something and say, there's no such minion, I'm doing the thing. But that's something we'll add later. Yeah, that worked fine. So I'm going to commit that engine change. Awaken only asks for select effect if both options are possible. No test. So, and here I will update the DLL. So I'm just going to make a note on that card. I implemented this but didn't update the unit test. So someone can do that. Or I'll do it later, but I don't want to do it right now. So that is checked off. Next, Cauterizer. A lot of these will, in theory, just work. So let's check it out. So Cauterizer minions, we want to actually have it be in play. Or we can just have 2 Nemesis turns go. That's probably a better test. So we'll have 2 Nemesis turns go. So Cauterizer is the first one. And let's play it and see. All right, we get the turn order goes and Cauterizer comes up. So this has a damage reduction effect, which is something we're going to want to test. And it should do 3 damage to someone. So yeah, either Jian suffers 3 damage or Brahma suffers 3 damage. And we'll pick Brahma because she's over there. And that worked. It plays the next card. So cool. So I'm going to do that, but the second turn I'm going to pick this and I'm going to put like a big damage spell to see if that damage reduction thing works without anything having to happen in the UI. So we should get a Cauterizer. Wildfire Whip, yeah, it's 4 damage, so that should be a good test. All right, so Jian's turn. If I drag it over the Nemesis, you can see it goes to 66. If I drag it over Cauterizer, it goes to 2. So that is working, and I'll go ahead and cast it and see if anything else needs to be done. Looks like it worked just fine. We might, indicate something more about like the damage reduction later, but that's functionally okay as far as I'm concerned right now. So that's good. Let's consider that one checked. Dispel is an attack, I think, so we can stack that. And let's run that. Moving right along now. My favorite ones are the ones where you don't have to do anything. So Dispel pops up. I'm going to pause it when it comes up full here too, just to unleash twice, so we should get 2 tokens on there. And then the player with the most press spells discards their most expensive press spell. So this will be a choice between Actually, I should put 2 wildfire whips in, and then there'll be like more of the options should pop up. So let's do that. Because we have to choose a player and then which spell, most likely, is how this was implemented. Yeah, so we're choosing either John's going to discard or Brahma's going to discard. We'll choose John. And click a card to discard. It says a little, this hint is probably maybe up here, but it is highlighting them, so we might want this to say click a prepped spell to discard it. So let's make sure it works first, and then we'll look at making that change. So I click it, it goes away. That's it. All done. Okay, let's look at changing that hint because that's a little confusing. We need to go back to the UI here. Aeon's End project. So that's going to be the discard card activation. Yeah. Okay. Right, so in the base class, we have this thing to update the hint. And so we want to override this in this to be able to like update the hint to have the right text. So we'll override it. And we'll call the base and then we're gonna we still want to check to see if it's null, if it's not null. If the hint label is around, we're going to update the text. So the discard, just grab this. If the discard dot card to discard, if it's let's see. Can we see if it's in breach? If it's prepped? Well, you can see if the location is a breach, then the text is going to be different. Otherwise, it's going to be the existing text. So let's grab what that existing text is, and we're going to put it in here. The discard hint is, so this hint system is, as I mentioned before, it's kind of, oh wait, that's, oh, it's a select card hint, I think. Let's run this and see which hint is actually getting shown. Could be looking at the wrong thing here. This hint system is probably not going to survive to the main game. We'll do something a little better, but it's suitable for the demo and easy enough to implement. So we get Dispel coming out. The Unleash Twice part works, I assume. Yeah, 3 there. So we'll say John discards. Okay, it is actually a select card hint. So, okay, so that's a different place that we need to be. It's not a discard activation, it's a select card activation. And that already has this code for deciding a different thing. So here's choosing different reasons. If it's for casting a spell, do this, whatever. So here this logic for discard card needs to check to see where it is. So if the select card, yeah, if the card choices are, I need to include link. If the card choices are in breaches, unless there's another new choice, no, it's all discard card It'd be nice if there was another reason that this was instead of just that, but it's discarding a prepped spell, but we can check here. If they're all, the cards are in breaches, then we're going to say a different text. So we'll say click a prepped spell above to discard it. And here we'll say, we can change this, say click a card in hand to make it more clear. Yeah, and here we might say click a prepped spell to cast it. And I'm not sure. This one might have the same. I don't know if there's destroy cards in breaches, but we'll leave that the way it is right now. So let's see if that hint can be improved, and then we can check that one off. All right, here comes the spell. John discards. There, click a prep spell above to discard it. So that helps draw your eye to what you want to do. And you click one, and it goes to your discard. That is what we want. I'm just going to make sure that it works if we choose the other mage. Choose Brahma. Yeah. So it still says this, but I think that's okay for now. So I'm going to go to my source control and say show an improved hint if selecting to discard a prepped spell. Did it. And dispel's good. How about lay waste? Let's run that. I'm not sure if this is, I can't remember if this is a power or an attack. Sounds like an attack. Laying waste. We'll see. It is an attack. Unleash twice and any player suffers 2 damage. This should be easy. We have this already in the game. So yeah, so suffer 2 damage. That was the easiest one because that is very similar to a tier 1 card, just with more bad stuff. Needle Maw is a minion, so we want Needle Maw. Might have a second Nemesis turn. And let's put that in. Let's check the Kickstarter and see if we've crossed 25,000. So we've got a couple more pledges. We're at 24,977. Come on, 25,000 is a good milestone. We're rolling along here, so let's keep it moving. Let's go back to Unity. Needle Maw just has a persistent Gravehold suffers damage, so I don't think this is going to be a problem. Yep, the damage happens. So one thing I'll mention is we are planning to have the, like, whenever a Nemesis card like activates, it'll like, you know, pop up or highlight or something to like be like the Needle Maw is the thing that's doing this. You know, maybe have a animation that comes from it to Gravehold or something. All those sorts of things are things that we're, you know, planning to do. So I didn't have to change anything for that one. Sorry, I'm zipping around in my tabs here. Pulverizing Ray. So this one also needed that select effect thing, but I did implement that for the other card, so this might be a power. Well, in any case, we'll see what happens. It's going to have the or thing, so we're going to have to choose between two options. All right, let's see. Yeah, this is a power 1, so we are going to go to another Nemesis turn, so that's fine. It's going to either Gravehold suffers 3 damage, or any player discards gem in hand, right, and then the repeat 5 additional times. So this also, I'm guessing, probably needs to have some logic to, like, if no one has gems in hand, like, you can't do it. But we can check that. All right, so yeah, so this is wrong. Like, it's not repeating that 5 additional times. I wonder, this card might be implemented wrong. Because if I choose Gravehold suffers 3 damage, yeah, this card was not programmed correctly. And I'm not surprised, because it's the most, like, misunderstood card in the game. So I'm going to make a note on the engine board. Pulverizing Ray is implemented incorrectly. You repeat the entire text of the card 5 times, not the second option. So I'm going to pop into the engine and see if it's easy for me to fix that. Obviously, the unit test is going to totally break. But let's see. And also, the text of the card needs to be more clear. So I'm going to go to the Nemesis card list, text, and find Pulverizing Ray. Or, and this is a new line, fellas. All right. So here, this is not there, and yeah, this is a lie. You discard 1 card. Yeah, okay, it's 1 card. And we basically do this 5 times? 5 additional times. So 6 times total, right? Yeah. Oh, heck, really? Yeah, this unit test is definitely not going to work. But it should work, and that button text is now nice and concise. So let's see if it works in the UI. It also needs to, like, check to see if you don't have a gem in hand. And yeah, so I'm not going to do that part yet. I'm going to try the other part. I guess Jean-Marc and David aren't watching the stream, where they would be in the chat. To be fair, Pulverizing Ray is like the most FAQ card of Aeon's End core game by far. And they've, like, tried to update the wording, like, at least a couple times to make it more clear. So we'll chat with Kevin about that again. Come on, there we go. I think I have a thing in my debug settings to discard your hand, and that would be able to check the other thing. Or maybe not. I need to, oh yeah, oh, put the deck in the discard. I can have a thing to, like, make you discard your hand or something. All right, so yeah, so we'll say Gravehold suffers 3 damage. Gravehold suffers 3 damage. That's 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. Oh, poor Gravehold. We almost lost. All right, I'm going to actually put this on initial Nemesis cards so that it goes a little faster. And I want to check the discard aspect too. So actually, I'll go and edit. I'll do this. Yeah, we need to. This needs to have a check to see. I'll leave that to the engine devs to do that. I want to just check to see if the option part works though. So any player discards a gem in hand. We're gonna get. Oh, okay. It just like sort of it shows all the cards for all the players, so you can click on. You don't have to click on a player first. So I can click on a Brahma one. It discards it. The animation made it go to the deck. That was weird. Let's try it in the big one. Oh, I think there might be a property that's not hooked up right there. Let me check there. Does this have... Yeah, the discard view is showing, is right. The deck and the discard is over here. Oh, but this card parent is over there. That's okay. That's why. It's like the place where it's putting the cards is wrong. That's why it's just an animation glitch. I've seen that before, and I'm like, that was weird. Why is it going to the deck? Definitely just a view bug. So let's try it again. And actually, that's a card on the engine view that I had made. This was a view glitch. Spelling. Get rid of that. Cool. All right, so discard a gem. Now it goes to race place. Okay, and then, yeah, we have to do that 6 times in total. Bishop dropped off 10 minutes for a business call and come back to, oh, heck. I think it was due to pulverizing ray. And actually, I wanted to pull up pulverizing ray. Can I get into the right click? Maybe not. I can like click it and then right click it. Probably will make a way to do that a little better. Yeah, so Great Roll suffers 3 damage, or any player discards a gem in hand and then repeat the entire thing 5 additional times instead of just repeat the last thing 5 additional times. And I'm going to pick a note on this. Fixed, but test not updated. All right, so let's go to the engine again. Yeah, Pulverizing Ray is like, there's a reason why it's the card that isn't in the stop decks for the original, for the initial setup, because it's a really difficult card as well as being confusing. Update behavior of Pulverizing Ray. No test. That is going to make the test fail. All right, so here we update the DLL and fix card parent location. All right. That is good. That's another one checked off. Sort of partially. There's still an engine thing, but there's a separate card for that. All right, Venomite is a minion that has an OR effect. So, question for the class, what do you think is going to happen here when I play it? See if anyone can guess. See if everyone's paying attention. There's that Venomite. I'm going to pause. Oh, it's already gone. I can right-click it to have a look. So this is the one with the long text. Player with the lowest life suffers 2 damage, or any player discards a prep spell that costs 3 or more. And we do have the wildfire thing, so we should be able to see both of those effects. We don't have an answer yet from the class, and if you guessed that the card cannot activate for select effect, you would be right. So this is the same thing as we had before, where there was no place for those buttons to go on the card view. It's the same thing. The minion card view is actually different, a different prefab, so it doesn't have those things set up. But as we saw before, it's pretty easy to do that. You're going to say it won't work. Well, that's partial credit, Take Walker. You need to show your work. So let's pop over to, we can grab the select effect parent off of this card again, and let's look at the minion card view. Yeah, you're actually working for your own work. That's fair. I get it. This is my work, not your work. So there's select effect parent. We're going to get that hookup, and we'll hook up the button prefab, same one as before, and let's apply the changes to this minion card. The little Tommy Johnson of Little Chute, Wisconsin got a tasty fruit snack. What? Cytosine is making some deep cut reference that I don't know what he's talking about. Sorry. Let's go back to game view, and now we should get that select effect pop up on. Oh, I should have clicked into new game. I'll click it next time. Mobile has a 2-minute delay. Oh, sorry. We do have the low lag thing on, but. So here's our Venomite again. Oh, it's a Mystery Science Theater 3000 reference. All right, so here is another. These buttons are too long. These buttons are too dang long. Here we can probably actually say like who's going to suffer the damage, as opposed to just like the player with the lowest life. We could, complicated there. It might be a tie, but we could put like the list of their names, and then any player discards a prep spell that costs 3 ether or more, and actually that is not getting the icon in there, so that should be fixed. So, but first we can test to see if the effect works. So let's click the first one. We see who's going to suffer 2 damage because they're tied. So that works. And yeah, now I can't continue because maybe, what if I just put it on initial Nemesis cards? It might still go. I'm not sure if the triggers get set up right. We'll see. Okay, oh yeah, so we get it. So any player discards a prep spell that costs 3 or more. And then, so yeah, we can pick any spells, whether from either mage, so I click that one, goes to the discard, and we carry on with our life. So, once again, I bet if I don't have any prep spells, or if they're like spark, it's going to show me that option even though it shouldn't. So, let's check that. Yep, so here we can choose this option for no downside, which is not in the spirit of the game or the rules of the game. So what was that card? Venomite, Venomite. Once again, I'm just going to copy and paste that. This one we'll leave to the engine developers again to fix. And so also option text on Venomite should be dynamic. i.e. say who will take damage. Okay. But I also want to put the make sure that those buttons get the icons. So that's just probably an oversight here. So we want, yeah. So here it's configuring it, but it's not. It's probably just putting the text straight in. It's not, yeah, using. So we want to use text helper dot replace templates. That's a helper we have that like converts those little squiggle things we call templates into the right code for the label to be able to draw the right emoji or whatever. And what we'll probably do with these buttons is like make the text a little more concise, so it's like a mixture of text and icons, so that like it'll be like, you know, the 3 damage icon instead of like writing out 3 damage. But we'll see. Let's see how this looks at least, and then that'll be good enough for now. Yep, so there's the 3 ether. But that text is, you know, I mean, when you're zoomed in, it's not too bad, but I'd rather it be like, you know, a little more concise instead of a giant sentence. Okay, so I think I made a small change for that. Yeah, oh yeah, support select effect on minion cards, replace templates in button text. So I'm just going to add another card. I'm going to check that box, but I'm going to write a note here to improve select effect button text on cards. Make more concise. Use icons. Make dynamic. Those sorts of things. All right. Next up, we have Scorn, and this is another select effect card. We're rolling right along. It's 242. Scorn isn't a minion, is it? Let's see what it is. It is a minion, and its name is Scorn. Well, it's going to get another turn here, so let's change this to have it take a little less time next time. Right, so either Gravehold suffers 3 damage or Unleash twice. That's pretty straightforward. We can just make sure they work. That one worked. And let's make sure that the Unleash twice works. This is like once we've done all that other work, this one is just going to go right along, so that's nice. Unleash twice. Boop. There's some more tokens on there, so we'll probably have Rageborn like roar or shake the screen or something when that happens, because that's more exciting. But that was pretty easy. That one didn't take anything after the stuff we did before. We've got Bloodcry. 2 left. I know that last one has got more to it, so we'll see. These are, I don't remember if they're powers or attacks. Let's just put it on the stack and see. See how the Kickstarter is going. Oh, we got thrown back because it actually started going. Right, so this is a power 2, so actually I'm going to put it into the initial cards. One of the debug things I have for testing is whenever power cards in this initial list, it'll like make sure it has no tokens on it, so it'll activate right away. We're still at 24,977. Let's go. We need like 2 more pledges. We'll be over 25,000. If you're listening, check it out. All right, so here we have this power. Okay, right. So we want to check the discard thing as well, but the unleash 4 times should just go here. Ticks to 0, and then we unleash. All right. So we also want, yeah, we're gonna want to be able to make sure the 2 discard works. And first we'll try it without anyone having charges, and it should not be available. And then we'll have the charges, and then it should give us an option to do it. So we'll pop through this again. Get to Jan's turn. We don't need to cast a spell. Right, so we don't have any charges, so we're not going to be able to activate the 2 discard for it. So let's make it so we can. So I'll give us 3 charges and 2 ether, so we can just buy the charge, and then we'll see that we'll get to do it. All right, don't need to cast. So we still don't have the 2 discard available, but as soon as I buy it, it starts glowing, and we get the hint here. Click a power card to perform the 2 discard actions. So, and it's going to be lose 4 charges, so we should see the charges pop away, and then it goes. So, again, nice animation sometime, but for now, that is working. So that looks good to me. And finally, Invoke Carnage. This was the one that had like 5 icons on it, so we'll see what happens there. This was a power, I think. Let's run it. We'll see. If only there was some way to know. It is a power, right, that you can spend ether to. Okay, so we have it set up this way. I can, have 6 ether, and then I'll play a crystal, and then we'll have 7 ether. And on Gian's turn, we should be able to discard it, and then we can, in reverse order, we'll check the power effect after that. Okay, so we don't need to cast. So we don't have the 2 discard, but as soon as I play a crystal, I now can discard it by spending 7 ether. It didn't actually update the ether? Oh, yeah. It didn't actually spend the ether. It just as long as I had the ether. Whoops. That's a problem. I mean, that's nice. Let me pull up the code for it. That's under Rageborn. Invoke Carnage. Yep, it just doesn't actually have any code here for what happens on the 2 discard effect. So I'm gonna put a note for the devs on that. Invoke Carnage does not actually spend the ether when you discard it. And that's definitely a problem. It makes it real easy, that's for sure. So let's go to and see if the effect of it works. So get rid of that and put it in initial cards instead and try it. To discard, have 7 ether. Yeah, exactly. That's how it is effectively right now. So here we've got Invoke Carnage. We did the Unleash, so the 2 is there. Any player suffers 1 damage and then additional damage for each Fury token. So it's actually factoring in how much damage already, so we can see who's going to suffer the damage. So that's cool, and that works fine. So that part's fine. So I'm going to say, like, the spending the ether part is going to be fine. We already do that. We have another card that does that. So that is actually all of them implemented. As you see, we still have a few little bugs to deal with on the low level, because this is the first time we've actually had them tested out in the view fully. And so that's part of the process as well, right? We continue iterating on improving things and making them work properly. So that's good. I'm going to check, and we've crossed 25,000. We've actually crossed over like a bunch more. So thanks to the backers who have jumped in this afternoon. We are over 83.3 repeating percent. 25,000 out of 30,000. There's only 5,000 to go. That's like I don't know what's 5,000 divided by 15. 300 backers, or like if they back at 20, that's 250 backers. I think we can handle that. If every one of these backers, everyone tell your friends, and if a quarter of your friends, 1 in 4 of all of those friends, if you tell one person, right? I could make up numbers. Tell your friends to back it, and we'll be across the line in no time and getting into stretch goals. So thanks everyone for all your support, all 1,139 of you, and more to come. So that's probably going to do it for the dev stream today. I'll push my code up, but we've got these 5 commits here that we did today. That's pretty good work for a couple hours, and maybe an hour and a half after the question period. But I think that's probably going to do it. That was the main thing that I want to get to, was implementing those things. I was thinking of potentially like playing through some of those cards as well in a game situation, but I think with those bugs, I want to have those bugs fixed up first before we do that. So keep an eye out. We'll have an update in the Kickstarter, I'm sure, when we get the demo updated with the Tier 2 cards, hopefully this week, potentially next week, and you'll be able to play the demo for a few more minutes. Probably, I guess it's about, how many more turns is that? Oh, whoops, I'm all over the place. I'm real good at Alt-Tab. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 9, you play without one of them. So 9 additional Nemesis turns in the demo. Take Walker, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. What's in store for next week? I'm not sure. One thing we were thinking about was potentially having Jean-Marc do some music stuff. That might not happen. Like, that's really dependent on both his setup as well as his family has a baby on the way soon, so there's a chance that he might not be available. We could also potentially be showing some more animations or some more programming stuff, but we'll see. We haven't totally decided yet. We could also potentially have Kevin back on. One of the ideas for a stream we were thinking was having Kevin do some card design stuff. So who knows? We have different ideas, and we'll see. We'll see. It'll still be a surprise. It'll be a surprise to me. So that is going to do it for this dev stream, and we'll get that update out to the demo as soon as we can. I'm going to pop over to OBS and switch it over. So thanks for watching. Millions of Johns. We will talk to you soon. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you in the States. See ya.